All right, last new lesson of the year. So we talked yesterday about the parallel lines, right? All the different types of angle relationships that are formed. There's the 5 big ones right there. So now we know how to find the missing angle. Now we're going to find x. So it's essentially kind of like what we did before when we started out with these relationships, complementary, supplementary. We knew what one angle was. We could set up a nice simple little equation to solve for the other angle. And then we took it up a notch. We said, all right, I know that these two angles add to equal 90. So I'm going to set these expressions together, equal to 90, boom, boom, boom. Do what I normally do to solve for x. So here it's the same idea. We got to figure out what relationship we're looking at first. That's going to tell me whether the angles are congruent or supplementary. Then I can set up an equation and solve. So for this first one, I've got 17x minus 2, that's this big old angle up here. And I've got 15x plus 10, this big old angle down there. So these are both on the exterior of my parallel lines. One angle is to the right of the transversal, the other one's to the left of the transversal. They're on alternate sides, so these are alternate exterior angles. Now, even if I don't remember that alternate exterior angles are congruent, again, I can look at what type of angles I see. This is obtuse, that is also obtuse, therefore they must be congruent. So if these two angles are congruent, that means they're equal to each other. I can say 17x minus 2 is equal to 15x plus 10. Now, what a lot of us are going to run into is that we always just like to add them and set them equal to 180. Most of the time, that's not the case. We'll talk about an example where we do want to do that, but this is not one of those examples. These angles are congruent. And if you forget, just go back here. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. So when we set them equal, now I want to get my x's over to the left. By subtracting, I get 2x minus 2 equals 10. I want to get this number over to the right, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I get 2x equals 12. And then I just divide by 2. And that gives me x is equal to 6. Pretty easy. 3 little steps. Inverse operation, inverse operation, inverse operation. Then I got my answer. Now over here, I've got 80 degrees. Obviously that's acute because it's less than 90 degrees. And I've got this angle over here, x plus 92. All right, now that is also an acute angle. We see that it's less than 90 degrees. I know these need to be congruent. What's the relationship? Well, I've got one on the interior, one on the exterior. They're on the same side. See how they're both to the left of the transversal? If we look back in our relationships, those are corresponding angles, which, like we said, are congruent. So I'll just do the same thing I did. I'm going to set them equal to each other. X plus 92 equals 80. Now this one's going to be a little bit different, right? We're going to get kind of a weird answer. If I subtract 92 from both sides, 80 minus 92 gives me negative 12. Now you may get an answer like this and go, well, how can that be possible? How can I have a negative answer, but I can't have a negative angle measure? Because we're not finding the angle measure, we're finding x. If I were to plug negative 12 in to x plus 92, negative 12 plus 92 equals 80 degrees, which is congruent to this 80 degree angle. So when I have an expression like this and I'm setting up these equations and there's an x involved, I can get a negative value for x. Totally fine. The angle measure itself is not negative, but the x value that makes this expression 80 degrees, that x value is negative. And that's okay. It's going to happen. Now this is where we have to be a little more careful. These are on the interior. They're on the same side of the transversal. I've got 80 degrees and I've got 10x. Well, 10x is obtuse, 80 is acute, This is going to be a supplementary relationship. The only supplementary relationship that we know of is consecutive interior. So this is the one circumstance where I'm not going to set these two angle measures equal to each other and solve. They're supplementary, which means if I add them together, 10x plus 80, that's going to equal 180. So just like we talked about on Tuesday with the supplementary angle expressions, this is the same kind of deal. So now if I want to get x all by itself, I'll subtract 80 from both sides. 10x equals 100. I'll divide both sides by 10, and I get x is equal to 10. Now if I were to plug this 10 back in here, 10 times x, which is 10 times 10, this blue angle is 100 degrees. And that makes sense because 80 plus 100 is going to give me 180. So that's my only supplementary relationship. Most of these problems, you're going to set the two angles equal, but we got to be careful when we have an obtuse with an acute, we do not want to set them equal. I cannot have an obtuse angle that is equal to an acute angle. It will never happen. Finally, over here, I've got one in, one out. They're on alternate sides of the transversal. So those are vertical angles. They make that little X, little bow tie, whatever you want to call it, which are also congruent. So I can say 17x plus 11 equals 130. I'll subtract 11 from both sides, giving me 17x equals 119. And then I'll divide by 17. That should give me, what is 119 divided by 17? Six, 7? Is it 17? No. Oh, it's 7? 70 plus 49? Yeah, x is equal to 7. You can do that on the calculator too. 7 times 10 is 70. 7 times 7 is 49. 70 plus 49. Yep, that gives me 119. So once we set up the equation, it's the same solving steps that we've always done. It's really not going to be too bad. It's just making sure with our setup we know when we have this unique case where my two angles are supplementary. Every other relationship, corresponding, vertical, alternate exterior, alternate interior, like we saw yesterday, those are all congruent. It's this one standout, this consecutive interior angles on the same side, where one's obtuse and one's acute. It's the only time we add them and set them equal to 180.